Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts, the podcast that seeks out the spooky with fervor and glee. And let me just say, dear spirit, I am so thankful for your patience this spring. While my personal life has kept me from sharing full new episodes with you, I'm happy to report that I'm seeing the light at the end of that tunnel and I'm getting back into the spooky swing of things. So thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. Tonight, I have some new ghost stories to share with you with the theme of ghost investigations. And some of these stories include actual EVPs, so listen closely for those. So, my dear listener, are you ready to be spooky with me? The ghost stories begin right now. When my son was about to graduate high school, I began making plans for traveling once he was in college. Being a single woman, I didn't want to travel alone, but my son and most of my friend group didn't enjoy the type of traveling I wanted to do. They wanted excitement in modern towns or beaches, cruises, drinking, and shopping. Due to my upbringing, I was attracted to visiting historic cemeteries, museums, old towns, abandoned places, antique stores, and any place that had a dark history. My dad was a history nut, and most of my family vacations were centered around old ghost or mining towns. My dad specialized in spooky true tales around the campfire, such as just over that hill is the spot where the steam train derailed, trapping the crew, so they steamed to death. They found them with just their flesh literally melting off. You get the gist. Even our trip to Disneyland had side quests to historic mansions with grim backstories. It was inevitable that I would fall in love with dark history. For my birthday that year, my friend decided to pay our dues to join a local paranormal group, since they had a reputation for traveling to these types of locations around the world. I was a bit skeptical. While I loved the tales of ghosts and dark history, I had my share of amateur teenage paranormal hunting in the rural town I was from. I still didn't quite believe all the stuff that happened on the paranormal shows on TV. Shadow figures, EVPs. I had never experienced these phenomena, and I am firmly a see it to believe it type person. But I do love researching, and if I could offer them historical research and travel while they did their investigations, then it seemed like a great idea. Our first trip was to Montana to investigate the old state prison at Deer Lodge and the Dumas brothel in Butte. I dug in and I did my research. I went in thinking I'd get to see some great bits of history, never thinking that I might actually experience anything. After a long first night investigating the Dumas brothel, a member and myself were the only ones in the basement. The other people were 2 floors above us, but most were gone for the night or in another building. We were exiting for the night and no longer investigating, but thankfully, I forgot to turn off my body camera. I commented how odd it was that every single hallway was lined on both sides with windowed rooms fashioned after the Amsterdam red light district, except this one section in the basement. There were windowed rooms, or cribs as they were called, on one side, but not the other. Being a little silly from exhaustion and having spent entirely too much time watching Scooby-Doo, the Hardy Boys, and Nancy Drew as a child, I started knocking on the wall, as if I was searching for a hollow sound to indicate a secret door or passageway. To my surprise, I did find a section that sounded different. We looked closely, and there was a seam. Still being silly and not expecting to find anything, I pushed on the seam. It gave way a little bit. I pushed harder. Sure enough, it was a hidden door. It opened to a dark, short corridor. We couldn't pass up this discovery, no matter how tired we were, so we ventured in, stepping across dirt and gravel. I wondered aloud what this room was used for while taking a big breath. As we turned the corner and saw 2 old beds and a telltale low-hanging sink, I asked into the room, "Can you make a noise?" We didn't hear anything and left, sad imagining who would have been hidden away in that room at one time. Upon reviewing my footage the following week, I was shocked to hear a female voice whispering just before I asked if someone could make a noise.
This room was for. Can you make a noise? Oh, here's a sink too.
We had heard stories of babies and women who died with vague urban legends of body disposal. We even heard about one of the madams ending her life in this very basement. So this, my first EVP on my first investigation, seemed topic and location appropriate for them to be mentioning. Someone buried her. But was it intelligent? It wasn't a Class A EVP, and I wasn't yet convinced this was anything more than an anomaly, but it definitely gave me goosebumps. I proceeded through my footage review that included my first possible shadow figure and a few other seemingly intelligent but short EVPs. It wasn't until I reached our footage from the infamous Death Tower at the state prison at Deer Lodge that I had to admit there was something to these EVPs. It was the final proverbial domino to tip the scales, shifting me from mostly skeptic to believer. This seemingly intelligent and almost empathetic EVP led me to add investigator to my historic researcher title. The prison is intimidating and a bit scary, even if you don't know the history of the deaths, hangings, escape attempts, and murder, including what is now known as Jerry's Riot in 1959. I'm afraid of heights, but wasn't going to miss the chance to investigate the infamous tower where the terrifying end to Jerry's Riot happened, complete with remaining damage from the National Guard's bazooka strike. My best friend Rachel started climbing the stairs, but had an overwhelming feeling as we reached the 3rd floor. Overcome with asthma-type symptoms and some anxiety, she decided not to go any further. I sort of chalked it up to the heat and our very long day, and I pressed on. Upon reaching the 4th floor, I looked down and got vertigo. I told Rachel I'm having vertigo, and started trying to breathe through the attack while holding onto the wall. Upon playback of the incident, I hear a female voice seemingly telling me what to do.
I'm having vertigo. Okay.
Most people don't know this, but when I'm having vertigo from my height phobia, the only thing that sometimes helps me is to sit or crawl on the ground. I ended up sitting down and sort of scooted down the stairs until I reached Rachel and no longer felt the ground rushing at my face. I was unaware I was following a helpful spirit's advice. Once Rachel and I debriefed, we realized that the exact spot where she started having breathing difficulty was the floor where, at one point, prisoners with tuberculosis had once been held. While these aren't the scariest or even Class A EVPs, having experienced it firsthand as my first real investigation helped turn me into a more curious and compassionate investigator. Now I know history has a voice. When my husband and I attended the 2023 Oregon Ghost Conference, the old Mason Lodge was open for paranormal investigations for the first time. Eager to explore, we decided to check it out. When the investigation began, we split into groups and positioned ourselves in different offices within the dimly lit lodge. In our room, our group had a chair in which one of us would sit while asking questions to the spirits, an audio recorder to catch potential EVPs, and an SLS camera to capture any invisible to the eye specters, rendered as colorful stickmen on top of the video feed. During my husband's turn sitting in the chair, I was watching the camera feed when my heart skipped a beat. The SLS system drew a stickman standing directly behind him. The figure proceeded to lean forward over my husband's chair, placing its head invasively behind my husband's. Spooky coincidence, I thought. A false camera reading? Just then, my husband mentioned feeling a warm breath on the back of his neck. A chill ran through me and I thought, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. While my brain struggled to process the creepy situation, I suddenly felt extremely protective of my husband and my whole group. In the moment, it was my inclination to keep what I saw to myself to save the others from freaking out as much as I was. After my husband finished his session, I was compelled to confront whatever was interacting with him. I took the seat, and I firmly asked, "Why are you messing with my husband and touching him?" Almost immediately, I felt a strong grip grab the back of my neck. It squeezed so intensely hard that the pain continued throughout the next day at the conference. For the rest of the session, I sat with my hands shielding my neck, wary of another attack. It wasn't the only thing that happened during my time in the hot seat. Whenever I asked the spirit questions, we received no responses through our group's devices. Instead, its reactions came from different groups' offices and from across the connecting room. Flashlights flickered on distant tables. Bells rang in far corners. It was as if the spirit resented me and refused to communicate directly. Being that we were in a Mason's Lodge, a historically restricted space, I wondered if my presence as a woman was provoking it. Perhaps it disliked that I dared to question its actions. Whatever the case, with the attack and its method of communication, the energy felt malicious. Later, Our investigation group conducted the Estes method, a form of sensory deprivation where you're blindfolded and wear headphones connected to a spirit box. Isolated from external sounds, I began to relay words and phrases that came through for me. The responses were startlingly coherent and matched the angry, aggressive energy in the room. When someone asked, "Why aren't you touching this?" the spirit retorted through me, "Why don't you?" The replies were constant, confrontational, and unnervingly direct. After the session, a few participants approached me. They noted that I was the most vocal during all the Estes sessions and wondered if I was more sensitive to spiritual energies. Some speculated that me being a woman in the Masons' Lodge might have made me more receptive, or perhaps more of a target. It seemed the male investigators were either accepted or ignored, while I received more communication, hostile as it was. The entire experience at the Masons' Lodge was intense and left me a bit shaken. The energy had been palpable, like it was on the verge of manifesting physically. It felt like at any moment, objects would start moving on their own, or that the physical lashing out would escalate. It served as a stark reminder that some places hold tightly to their histories, and that not all spirits welcome those who enter. The first time I visited the Port Gamble Ghost Conference was 2021. I was prompted to go by my friend Sonia, and I had brought my daughter Caitlin with us as well. I didn't know what to expect, as I had never done anything like it before. I signed up for the same ghost investigations as Sonia did, as a security blanket measure, being apprehensive about what I might experience. The first night, we attended the investigation at St. Paul's Church and entered through the lower level. The atmosphere inside felt thick, as if we were walking through spider webs, and there were areas where I felt I should not go. However, once we entered the sanctuary, things felt different. Sonia and Caitlin walked towards the pulpit area, and I was trailing slightly behind them. I was walking down the center aisle between the pews when I felt something pressing against me, making me stop. Someone was not allowing me to move forward. I decided to sit in the closest pew. I then noticed that the pew had a number on it, 29. 29 has always been a significant number for me and others in my family, generations actually. This synchronicity made the moment even more curious for me. While I sat, I felt the presence of someone in the pew in front of me. It was a woman. I felt like she needed me to hear her, but I couldn't. Having been so long removed from any of the skills that could help me, I could not understand what she wanted. I spoke softly, asking if she had children. I felt little ones around me, giggling. Then she shushed them. We were in church, so that was to be expected. I again spoke softly, letting her know that I too have children, and that one had passed at an early age. I felt her hand on mine, and then they were gone. I stood up and I was able to pass the pew to join Sonia and Caitlin. All the lights were dim and Sonia was sitting on the stage, talking with Caitlin and interacting with one of the ministers who had passed. I could tell she was in deep conversation, so I didn't want to disturb the moment. She had an orange, yellow, white aura surrounding her. I continued to watch her, curious as to what was happening. Sonia turned to speak to Caitlin, and as she did, Her aura began to stretch out above her head and shoulders. I saw a human form emerge from the glow and move towards the minister's quarters. The aura stretched almost 6 feet to Sonia's left. I held my breath, not speaking or moving. I was not afraid. I was mesmerized, feeling safe and even loved. Then he was gone. I attempted to collect myself while pointing at Sonia and asking, "Did he just leave you to your left?" Sonia confirmed that, indeed, the spirit had in fact just left their conversation. I was in shock and overwhelmed with what I had witnessed. The next year, I again attended the conference with Sonia and Caitlin. We returned to the church. It was different in my eyes. Did they move the pews? Where was the one marked 29? I couldn't find it. I was able to walk to the front and sit without being held back this time, almost as if I was welcomed. As Sonia was speaking to the minister spirit again, I was distracted by other people in the sanctuary who were trying to use equipment to get activity readings. They were placing devices here and there and speaking very loudly in an attempt to get the spirits to hear them. They placed items on the pulpit, for which I felt an immediate energetic reaction from the space. Almost a "how dare you put things there" feeling. Soon after, they asked the child spirits to play the piano at the back of the sanctuary. I immediately felt the mother from the year before, a pew across from me. I could feel the children pulling at her, asking if they could, and the mother said no. And I heard it, clear as day. The investigator asked again, and the mother responded by telling her spirit children, "No, no, no." I spoke up and informed the investigators that the spirit here said no, that the children were not allowed to play the piano. The group stared at me, a bit shocked. Before we left the church, Sonia tried to describe the minister to the investigators. We were standing about 5 feet away from their equipment, which was set on a pew in the back. As Sonia scrolled through pictures of ministers, reverends, and priests, attempting to find the robe our minister was wearing, I felt a rush go through my body. Someone had walked right through me, and the alarms on one of the meters was set off. The spirit went directly to Sonia. She said it was our minister looking over her shoulder, trying to show her what his robes looked like. She did not find the exact ones, but had gotten close. Next that night, we ventured into the Walker Ames house. Our investigation group spent a lot of time in the attic, where the children had played. I was chosen to participate in the Estes method experiment. The group asked questions in hopes that a spirit would answer through the headphones I wore, connected to the spirit box. I listened to static for what seemed like forever. Random words would come through, but nothing that could really be understood. Finally, I heard, "Lisa, Lisa, Lisa." I said aloud, "You did not just say that." Then I heard it repeated to me, "Lisa, Lisa, Lisa." I said, "You know that's my nickname, right?" Again, "Lisa, Lisa, Lisa." I said aloud to the group that the spirit might be named Lisa. I took off the headphones to find that one of the questions they had asked was, "What is your name?" It was so curious to hear the name Lisa repeated so many times, and so clearly compared to the other words from the spirit box. It was thrilling. Since these events, I'm slowly finding faith in myself and what I am experiencing. I'm so grateful to the spirits who are helping me along the way. I hope that I will again meet the mother in the church and little Lisa in the attic. And with that, dear listener, we have reached The end of this episode of I Talk to Ghosts. I hope you've enjoyed these ghost hunting stories that I shared with you this evening, and I'm just so thankful to have spent this time with you. I plan on slowly ramping up from here on out to create full episodes with ghost stories and messages from the spirits, and also get back into offering spirit readings. I am so excited about that. Join me next week for more ghost stories and such. And in the meantime, wherever you wander off to in this world or the next, just remember, come back and visit with me. Have a lovely evening and good night.
Stories have always been at the heart of who we are. Across every culture, humanity has passed down tales to share truth, to make sense of the unthinkable, to remember what must not be forgotten. At Macabrium, we continue that tradition. I'm your host, Derek, and every Sunday I bring you the segment Lore and Legends, covering dark oral histories, myths, and folklore told through captivating narrative storytelling. I give you the history, context, and cultural significance of the topic before diving right into an original narrative steeped faithfully in the tradition that inspired and often continues to inspire it. So, from tales firmly rooted in the supernatural on Sundays to meticulously researched true crime on our Tuesday segment, Macabrium delivers thoughtful, engaging episodes that keep you hooked until the very end. Follow Macabrium on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. I'll see you there.
Fear Daily is a podcast that takes you into the shadows of the past, unearthing the 1990s most terrifying tales of monsters, madness, and life after death. Discovered on a forgotten bulletin board server somewhere in Pennsylvania's Rust Belt, these stories are an archive of humanity's strangest encounters with the unknown, as told by the people who experienced them. Written by Brennan Storr, creator of the Ghost Story Guys, and hosted by Brandon Scheck-Snyder of Southern Gothic, Fear Daily is your window into the dark corners of our world. Follow Fear Daily today on your favorite podcatcher to receive new episodes Monday through Friday, each and every week.